Okay, so welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a recap of Being Erica, Season 1, Episode 1. The show basically follows Erica Strange. She's a 30-something-year-old woman whose life seems to be falling apart. Her professional life, her personal life, her relationship with her friends, her relationship with her family. It seems like everything is kind of caving in her all at once. And this chance meeting, well, I don't know so much if it's a chance meeting with a particular man, kind of helps her kind of turn that around. And so episode 1 opens with her at work. She is an insurance agent, and she is called into the boss's office. And the next thing we hear, she's having a conversation with her homegirl, Judith. And she told her that she was let go. And the reason being is basically that she was overqualified.
He fired you? He said I was too bright for the job.
And so they continue to talk, and Judith is now trying to convince her to keep this date that she has with this doctor later that evening. And she's just basically telling her, you just need to go out and enjoy yourself. So reluctantly, she agreed to keep the date.
Go out with the dentist, flash that beautiful smile of yours.
So we see her heading to the restaurant, and of course the doctor calls her to basically tell her not that he has a patient, not that he has to work late, not that, something that we would consider an emergency. He calls to tell her that he can't make it because, he's been neglecting the gym, and so he kind of feels out of sorts, and so he's canceling the date so that he can go to the gym. Right, because he couldn't go to the gym after or before or, the next day. It's that important that he has to go to the gym that night. And so, of course, she feels kind of way because initially she didn't even want to go.
Really, I haven't gone to the gym in 2 weeks, and I'm out of shape. I don't feel like myself.
And so, of course, as these things happen, she gets some bad news. And then, of course, the sky opens up and she is now soaked with rain. So she makes her way to this local coffee shop. They make her drink, and all of a sudden you see her, she's having some type of situation. And she finds out that the drink they gave her had macadamia, had some kind of peanut, hazelnut in it. And she's now having some allergic reaction to it because she's allergic to peanuts. To nuts.
Yeah, it's actually the hazelnut mocha mint latte.
And so we see her next in the hospital, and this is where she first meets Dr. Tom. He basically tells her that he's like a therapist, and of course she is reluctant. I don't need no therapist. I'm good. Everything's all good.
I'm a therapist.
I don't need a therapist.
And then, of course, he reads her like a book, like all of the feelings and emotions that she was having. And as he was leaving out, he left this card with her and basically told her that, when you make a decision, basically to come find me. So the next thing you know, she's at her mother's house trying to convalesce. And next thing you know, all of these people come in. Judith comes in, her sister Samantha, her brother-in-law Josh, and some other people come in. And of course, she's like, "Well, Mom, what is going on here?" She's like, "Oh, well, they just wanted to see you."
Mom, what's going on? I made a nice brunch so you can visit with everyone.
And so they sit down for lunch. And it's quickly, you quickly tell that this is supposed to be some type of intervention where one of the guys turned to her and basically told her that she needed to get her life together, that, she needed to get a real job.
When are you going to get a real job?
Eventually, she excuses herself and she goes to her room. And then she basically makes a run for it. She put her house coat on and some shoes, and she jumps out the window and just head for the hills, right? And so she has the doctor's card, and she finds his address. She goes to him, and they're talking, and they get to some of the reasons why her life is in such disarray right now. And, she talked about how she made a lot of mistakes, and she understands that people, make mistakes, but she felt like she's made more than her fair share of mistakes.
Most people, they have A few regrets. I got tons.
And these, a lot of the mistakes that she's made has been life-changing. And so he asks her, and then he hands her a piece of paper, and he tells her to write down, if she could go back and change some things, to write down all of these, these pertinent, these mistakes that she feels that made such a drastic impact on her life. And she's writing page after page after page, right, of notes. And then he just picks a random, it's not even on the first page, I don't believe. He was like, well, what about this? And it was the 11th grade dance where her and her homegirls got drunk. She ends up going to they end up going back on the floor, dancing. She's messed up and she ends up collapsing. And she said from that day on, people never let her live down the fact that she ruined the dance. And then there was this rumor going around that she was a Jezebel.
How I was this big slut. And how I'd ruin the dance for everyone.
And so he asked her, so if you could go back and change that, what would you do differently? And she basically said that she would do everything differently. And so the next thing you know, she's kind of like, wow, did it get cold in here all of a sudden? And then she's flashed, and then you can see her flashed. She does this little, it almost reminds you of Teen Witch when she had to do that spin. And she's back in 11th grade.
Help me.
And of course, initially she is taken aback, like, what in the hell is going on here? She thinks that she's hallucinating. She's all discombobulated, right? Because she comes to kind of in the hallway of the school. And of course, the hustle and bustle of everybody kind of walking past her. She's just really trying to figure out what's going on. And so the next thing you see her, she's outside the building. And she's kind of looking around, and that's when she bumps into her friend, Katie. And Katie is basically telling her that, how excited she is. She has to go and get her dress for the dance.
You are such a spaz. Look, I can't talk. I gotta go pick up my dress. We are gonna look crazy.
So she get home, and this is where you see her parents. They're doing what they do when they're at school. And then you see Samantha and Josh. So Samantha and Josh, her sister and her brother-in-law, have been together since they were in high school. And then you see Leo. And she is taken aback when she sees Leo, because if you remember in one of the previous clips when she was writing her list, the last thing that she wrote down was Leo died. And so, of course, that comes up several times throughout the series. But so, of course, at this point, she's kind of shocked and happy to see him. So she's now back at school, and Dr. Tom is like the barista. He's outside of the school because, I guess high schools in the suburbs have that kind of thing. I never saw any such thing. But again, I went to school in the hood, so we didn't have people hanging out in front of the school selling stuff. And if we did, it wasn't no damn coffee. But anywho, he's, out there, and she's basically trying to get a straight answer from him on what is she supposed to be doing, why am I here, and he just basically telling her that she's gonna have to figure that out.
I'm giving you what you asked for. We learn by doing. There is no other way.
So, she gets to the school day, and she's now back home, and she's at the point where she's preparing for the dance. So, she's shaving, right? But, so Josh comes in, because he came to pick up Samantha for the dance. And instead of him waiting in the living room like a normal person, he walks through the hall. I guess he was going to go to Samantha's bedroom to get her. They has to hurry her along. And Erica's door was cracked. And so she's shaving, but it looks like she's doing something else. So she turns, she could see him, and he kind of darts off right after, seeing her. So she finally makes her way inside. And her homegirl walks up to her and tells her that there's a rumor going around school that Josh is telling people that she was pleasuring herself. And so she was just kind of laughed it off like, no, that's not what it was. I was shaving. It wasn't this, it wasn't this. But before she can even finish that conversation with her boyfriend walks up and basically was like, well, why the hell is people telling me that Josh saw you, somebody saw you naked, and it's something crazy, right?
Punk's telling the world he saw you naked?
Well, it's a lie. It's more of a misunderstanding.
And so he figures out that it was Josh that spread the rumors. He's now about to kick Josh behind. He's like twice Josh's size. And she breaks it up. And they go their separate ways. The dance continues on. She doesn't get drunk like she did before. And she felt like, okay, so she got past that part. So she accomplished what she came to accomplish. And so she went to Dr. Tom, who was still sitting outside. And she was like, okay, well, she felt that she had accomplished what she needed to accomplish, and that, she is she's ready to go. And he was like, well, basically, if you had learned the lesson that you were supposed to learn, you would have, basically, you would go home automatically. So that's basically how this works. He sends her back to right some wrongs, and once she has actually learned the actual lesson, which is typically not what she thought the lesson was, it's always something deeper, then she goes back to her time.
Doing whatever it is that you're meant to be doing, then you move on.
So she's now back in the school, and she's walking the halls, and she bumps into her homegirls, Katie and what's the other one's name? I can't think of the other one's name right now. They are drunk. So while she didn't partake in alcohol, they certainly did. And they're toe up. So now they're in the bathroom and they're trying to get her to drink. And she was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to drink. And so Katie ends up getting sick and vomiting all over her, right? So they go and take her to the stall so she can finish emptying her stomach. But at this point, Erica is covered in vomit. Now, the most common sense thing to do, okay, would be to go to the gym where you have your gym clothes and take the dress off there and change your clothes. But that's not what she did. For some odd reason, she stripped down, takes the dress off, and hands it to the other drunk friend, asked the drunk friend to go to her gym, her gym locker to get her gym clothes and bring them back. So at this point, the friend leaves, and by the time Erica turns around, Katie is basically passed out on the floor. She's unconscious. She can't get her up. She can't wake her up.
Katie, please. Katie, wake up. Come on.
So she's trying to call for help. Obviously, nobody can hear her over the music. So she ends up taking tissue and paper towels to cover her chest, because the bra she had, the dress she's wearing is strapless, so she didn't wear a bra underneath. So she's now covering her chest. She runs into the gym, because at that point, the last thing on her mind was her own self. She was trying to save her friend's life. And so her boyfriend is standing across looking at her. Everybody's looking at her, giving her the crazy eye. And she looks over at this half of her quote-unquote friend who was supposed to go get her damn clothes. And she's back at the damn dance, partying and drinking and sucking some guy's face off. So, eventually, thank goodness, that the friend ends up getting help. You see the paramedics are there. And then she turns to look at her boyfriend, and he just turns and walks away. So, they're all kind of out watching them as they load Katie into the ambulance. And then this is also the night where she meets Judith. So she turns and she saw Judith. She was like, "Oh, Judith, what are you doing here?" And of course, Judith looked at her and was like, "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" So at this point, they weren't friends, but this was the first night they actually met.
Judith, what are you doing here? Do we know each other?
And Mr. Leeds is, standing out there and they're talking. And he basically said, that what she did was brave, and that, that he's going to try to do what he can, but how it's going to be all over the school. People are going to be basically saying all kinds of stuff about her. And then she was like, the story of my life.
Some of the students are probably going to talk.
Story of my life.
And so then all of a sudden she got the chills again, like when she went into the past, and she was like, well, I just think it's time for me to go home. And so she wakes up on her couch back in her real time, and there's a knock at the door, and it's her mother. And her mother's like, oh, well, thank God, because remember the last time they saw her, she went up to the room and she had absconded out the damn window. And so all this time they had been looking for her, trying to figure out what was going on with her.
Oh, thank God, Erica, I have been worried sick about you.
And so she finds out that even though in the past she was gone for like 2.5 days maybe, but in present time, she'd only been gone an hour.
We just had brunch an hour ago? Yes.
So they're talking, and then Trevor, we find out the dentist's name is Trevor. So he pops up out of nowhere, and she introduces him, and it's like, oh, the dentist. So they're shaking his hand, and he's like, oh, I was just in the neighborhood and thought that maybe you want to go out. And so she was all, game. She was all for it. And then he was like, you might want to change because she's in her pajamas. And initially she was going to go change. And then she came. She's like, you know what? Never mind. I don't even care. Let's go.
But you know what? Actually, so what? Erica. Seriously.
So, of course, him and her parents were like, and her mother was like, you are not going out in some pajamas. And so one of the things that the doctor was trying to get her is like he felt that she was way too concerned what other people thought about her. But after that experience, she was all game, all ready to go. And we just about to go hang out, and I'm about to wear these pajamas and this ready robe, and we just gonna do what we gonna do. But eventually she just said, you know what, I'm not even gonna waste your time. Basically, this is not gonna work. And she went on out, but by herself. And she went to back to the doctor's office. But when she got to 47th Sugar Street, the office was no longer there. And so, of course, she's standing there confused. And then as soon as she turned, she see Dr. Tom. And he just, basically like, oh, they started talking. And he tells her that he doesn't actually technically have a real office, right?
Here you are.
What happened to your office?
And then he started talking to her about her desire to please other people and her putting so much weight on what other people think. And she was basically like, well, of course, basically the people that I care about, I do care about their opinions. And he was, told her that the goal of this was not to stop caring about what other people think. It was so that you could stop letting what other people think control your life.
I never expected you to stop caring, Erica. I just wanted you to stop letting that get in your way.
And so they basically parted ways, and he told her that they'd be seeing her soon for her second appointment. And he turns and he walks off, and then of course she tries to catch up with him, but by the time she hit the corner, he was in the wind. And she's kind of looking around, like trying to figure out, okay, so where exactly did he go? What is he exactly? So she's kind of wrestling with that at the moment.
And sometimes you turn a corner only to find you're different in some small way.
That is pretty much how this episode ends. So if you guys are interested in this show, I will be happy to do a recap for the remaining episodes. But if I don't get much engagement, I'm how this goes. I'm not gonna invest any time in going through all the episodes. So I'm gonna end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.